Miami did trail in that game, right? By 11. And then all of a sudden, that's what this team brings. We've seen it a few times this year. Welcome into Canes Live right here at the Voice of College Football. Appreciate you stopping by. Best discussion, debate, and analysis featuring this guy, Cam Underwood, State of the U, of course. Cam, how you doing?
Doing well, man. Good to be here. Glad to continue to be undefeated. And, moving onward, upward, and forward. So, yeah, it's great.
Folks, leave the comments and questions there in the chat. We'll get to them. Of course, we're going to recap Duke. We're going to look at the Georgia Tech game. We're going to talk about everything involving Miami and, of course, the college football playoff rankings that were released for the first time on Tuesday. You've got time to bring in some friends and family. Let people know out there on social media and otherwise that we are here talking Canes. And I reference a 36-3 run to close out that game. So Miami jumps out 14-0. Then Duke, to their credit, they go on a 28-3 run and get a lot of chunk plays during that time. And then, I watched that entire game and I'm locked in for what it could be some drama, some intrigue there. But Miami makes it so quick. It's like the Golden State Warriors in their heyday, could turn an 11-point deficit in the third quarter into like a 18-point lead. And you're like, I thought since this other team had an 11-point cushion, like it was going to be a great game and they would get pushed down to the limit. But no, it's going like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just simple math, stops and scores. And, in basketball where 3 is 50% more than a 2, and you had, 2 of the greatest shooters in all time, including the greatest shooter of all time and Steph Curry. That's how leads would go. And the thing that was very underrated about the Warriors and their, death squad lineup, or their death lineup, as they called it, was that defense was like when LeBron James and Dwayne Wade were on the Heat together in like 10, 11, 12, and their whole half-court philosophy was Wade and Bron can get there as they rotate. Anywhere in the half court, one's going, and then all of a sudden, skip pass corner. And how was Bron over there? Like, that was the thing. And the Warriors lineup was like that. And so I transitioned that into the Miami Hurricanes defense. In the first half, yes, there were some issues, and that has continued to, propagate itself throughout the course of the season. You know how many touchdowns Miami's given up in the second half of the year, or second half of games this season? 7 total. Like, including one to start the third quarter this game. When it comes time after halftime, that's lockdown city. And you keep getting these stops, and then you get these scores, and now all of a sudden it's just this tidal wave. And you saw some of the things when we played Florida State 2 weeks ago now. They said, hey, look, we're playing too high. You are not getting deeper than our deepest safety. We will take the body blows of 6.5 yards of carry. But what you're not going to do is hit us over the top, right? So if I go to just the scoring plays, you're not hitting us with a 34-yard touchdown on a scramble to Xavier Restrepo. You're not hitting us with a 49-yard touchdown on a switch route to Jacoby George. You're not hitting us with a 66-yard slant and go to Restrepo. You're not getting any of those. But we're going to take the crock potting, as it will, just body shot after body shot after body shot. Duke, to their credit, and they said, look, we're going to play the game. We're going to play to win all the way through. And if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. And they had the misdirection mismatches in the first half and in that first drive of the third quarter, literally to the point where, like, I tweeted out before it might have been the first touchdown of the second half when they ran that under route and had a guy wide open as the number 2 on the wide side. By the way, nobody was guarding him. He went in straight in the end zone, and he's doing the ooh me, because nobody, like, go back and watch the film. Nobody guarded him. And then they had the under route to the number 1 receiver, Moore, who had a couple great catches on that day. And then he's wide open, and he walks in. Before that play, I tweeted, I said, okay, so which misdirection play is Duke going to go to score? And I had multiple people respond to me after that one. And I'm like, okay. But after that, Miami finally figured it out in terms of getting aligned, in terms of switching, man-to-man stuff. It was just all of the confusion evaporated in a moment. So then, after that, if I go to the away team and I go to drives, following that touchdown, their drives went like this: 2 plays, interception, 10 plays for 68, and the field goal, which was their final points. Then 3-and-out punt, 3-and-out punt, 2 plays interception, 3 plays fumble, 6-and-out punt. Like, it was just lockdown after that. But then not only are you getting that, you're getting score after score after score after score from Miami. And yeah, that's how it flipped. So, I know, Cam Ward, 5 touchdowns, 400 yards, had another just terrible interception that you cannot have. And honestly, the only reason the one at Cal scored, the pick 6, right? Because he did the same thing, rolling to his right, standing on the sideline, throwing back to his offensive left, just a 500 recess ball. Whoever got it, right? Cal, dude picked it, nobody around him, scores. The only reason that one against Duke didn't score to make it a 1-point game, there were 2 defenders, and the one who didn't intercept it tripped up the one who did as they landed. That's the only reason that play didn't score, right? And if it did, now we're having maybe a different conversation. But he did his dollar. We ran the ball enough when we needed to. But, yeah, this team has really found a way in second halves to just take the air out of every team that they've played, which is really great to see. Cam Ward, again, just continuing to do what he does. Multiple receivers. When you throw for 400 yards, there's going to be, numbers for receivers everywhere, which is great. I just would love a little bit of the production from the second half on defense earlier in games. And I saw, multiple people, including my boy Roman from Owns World Boys. He said, basically we need to move the goalposts on Miami's defense and say, don't allow more than 30. Because we're scoring 48, 49 a game. Don't allow more than 30. We'll be all right. I would like to see that even one score down. I would like to say, if this defense can be between 24 to 28, I feel good in every game. But, it was, credit to Duke. They came out, they found something to take advantage of, and they did. Also, I don't love it that this is like the 3rd time, I want to say, this year that Miami's been up 14-0 with the ball in a position to really put the game away early, and has failed to do so in all 3 instances. So that gives me a little pause. But again, when you have Cam Ward, and I tweeted it out. I didn't do the research. I was, working on something else. But, I said Cam Ward has had these dry spells over and over again this season. People are like, yo, he's number 1 in the country in passing and all these touchdowns. And I'm like, yeah. And imagine what it would be if you took out the 1 for 11 to close the first half. If you took out the 3 for 14 in the middle of the game, if you remove those, and he's at 68% completions with da-da-da-da, imagine what it could be, But I don't know. So that's a lot to say about that. But, hey, Duke came in. They played hard. I know Manny Diaz wanted to beat the hell out of Miami, especially, for being unceremoniously tossed out of the job like he was Jazz on the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air or something, just out the front door. But, the better team won. I think that they knew that and everything. So, we move on. The biggest thing for me, even more than the win, Jadis Richards probably going to be out for the year. After on his interception during a return, he got hit and went down. And immediately Brandon O'Doy, who sits next to me in the press box, goes, "Oh, that's a leg. That's a knee. Like he's hurt." And people are like, no. Like if you saw it live and you saw the replay, it's like, yeah. And then, he's, crying on the field, slamming his helmet and everything. And later they cut to, I don't know if they showed it on the broadcast, but we get the broadcast feed. And sometimes they put in like the in-house game or the in-house feed from the cameras in the stadium. And he was being wheeled on a cart underneath the stadium with the air cast on his leg. And Mario Cristobal, after the game and on Monday, said that, yeah, his injury is significant. He wouldn't give any details, but I think it's a fair guess that Jadis Richard has played his last snap this year. And I know that the secondary has been lacking a little bit, but as one of the starting defensive backs, why are you calling me? And you know that, bro, as one of the defensive backs, and again, had an interception in that game. He's had to step up into a larger role because Damari Brown, the more talented DB who started, in the opener and got hurt, is not around because he's hurt and everything. So, you lose Damari Brown for this part of the season, and then probably Jadis Richard from here, through the rest of the year. Gonna have to move some pieces around in the secondary, which, I'm happy to talk about. But long story short, Mish Powell to the slot. Welcome to the starting lineup, Zaquan Patterson, because buddy, that kid needs to play.
So you're saying that about Zaquan Patterson because now is the prime opportunity, obviously, with other guys getting more playing time because of the injury, but you're also saying that because he's playing well enough when given the opportunity that he should get more reps.
All of the above. Yeah, he has earned it. It's tougher for so says Lance Guidry, for a safety than a corner, because safeties do have to do the interior checks for, because you have the full scale view. So you're checking for everybody in the secondary and things like that. But I mean, even when he came in this game, form tackle after form tackle, like he put his shoulder in somebody's ribs on a 2-yard check down, and Buddy stayed down for a minute. But if you look at his high school film, this is a physical kid. He had multiple interceptions. He'll just go take the ball from you. Great tackler. And he's shown that even in the time he's had, playing and everything. Has one start on the year. I believe it was the second game of the year that Zaquan Patterson started. But yeah, it's time for him. And also, in a perfect world, I would love it if you flipped Zaquan Patterson and had Jaden Harris as a super sub kind of a thing. If somebody gets dinged or needs a breather at safety, but I would probably pair them together and then move Mish Powell down, as long as it is the same group of available players. Mario Cristobal did, when directly asked, say Damari Brown, there is a good chance they feel very good about him coming back for the last part of the year, i.e. after the second bye week, which is next week, by the way, guys. Because again, there's an extra week in the calendar this year. Everybody gets 2 bye weeks. So, going towards the end of the regular season, the Wake Forest Senior Day or, at Syracuse, looking at those, there's a good chance they feel good that Damari Brown can come back, which would be a huge, huge, huge addition to the secondary. But, as of right now, he's doing better, but not going to play this week. But that could be on the horizon. But that's also, my commentary, me reading between the lines, because definitely Mario Cristobal was not as clear as that when, given the direct question, was saying, well, we'll see, type stuff.
Falconer TRX leading us off. Appreciate you, man. Thanks for being here. Following up with this one. Mark learned the golden rule: never bet the Canes. I posted a video after the game, and my opening line was, I still say I nailed that prediction against the spread. In practicality, I missed it. I technically missed it, but I think in principle, I still.
What was your
I took Duke in 21 points.
Oh, and Miami covered.
Yeah.
22. I get it. Yeah. In your heart, you believe that you covered, but that's a bad beat for, I get it.
If you, and I haven't bet on a game in 7 or 8 years, but I'm very interested and intrigued by, the point spreads and the odds and all that sort of thing, and pick the games and so forth. And there are certain ones that if you're being honest with yourself, you can say, I kind of lucked into that one. I thought this was going to happen and it really didn't, but then there were 2 late touchdowns that meant nothing and that covered me and and it works the other way. There are other times that you're like, I saw Duke putting up a fight. I thought I would be safe. It looked like I was safe when you're up 11 and you're getting 21. But like I say, Miami's one of the few teams in the country that can just erase that quickly and have that kind of firepower to make that happen. So let me hit this while we're on the defense and the defensive lapses, but then the recovery and the strong play in the second half. Because I got to think that this is a combination of generally three things. Either the players need to get a kick in the rear to come out on fire and be ready and not be looking at a scoreboard thinking, oh, we're down by 10 points in the third quarter. We got to get it going here. And I have to think, looking back at Virginia Tech, Louisville, Cal, those are the three other games where obviously they got gashed early and often. Okay, so either it's on the players, or it's the coaches have to be honest with themselves and look around and go, hey, we're not responding to things quick enough, and we're not getting those adjustments, and we're putting them in a bad position. And maybe a third option, and again, it's probably some kind of combination, is not to make excuses, but there's some teams that are breaking tendencies, putting together really good game plans, and throwing the kitchen sink out there early to try to grab a lead and show everything that they haven't shown on film.
Yeah, I mean, it is a combination of all of them, but, every team that we've played, has run things that they have not run against anybody else, even in rivalry games. You know what I mean? Like Louisville, Kentucky, and whatnot. Like there's just, Cal, Justin Wilcox said it. Hey, we did all kinds of different stuff, against Louisville, even having played SMU in a huge game for them the week before. They didn't, do show that. And I get that, SMU's defense plays differently than ours does schematically a little bit. But yeah, everybody's going to bring out all their stuff. They're going to do new things. Miami's been teams Super Bowls since forever. And especially this year when it starts to, the success of this team and the record associated with them, everybody fancies themselves as a juggernaut killer. You know what I mean? They want to be a season ruiner. And so, yeah, they're doing a lot of different things. But, yeah, I think there is some differences of who needs to play. I've been saying that. Also, when you do enough to mitigate the strength of the defense, which everybody knows is our defensive line, if you do enough where they're not living in the backfield from whatever reason, whether that's, I think, not like 5 or 6 more, but I think 1 or 2 more holding penalties could have been called against Miami's opponent pretty much every game of the year. And it's one of those things. If you call it early, then it makes them stop doing it because they're going to get called for it. It's like playing basketball. You call that touch foul early. All right, I know how this is how you're going to ref it. We're going to be differently. If you let it get away with it, then there's all these pictures that always get, into my inbox or into my Twitter of, guys with just, their, shoulder, the jersey being ripped off the shoulder pads, or you see the stretch of what, all of these things, but cop didn't see it. I didn't do it. And ref didn't call it. Hey, that means this is fair game. So if you're able to do, good blocking or adding in a little bit of holding and they don't call it, and all of a sudden Miami's defensive line isn't able to, they're a step or a step and a half slower, which gives all this extra time for the quarterbacks and these routes to develop and these guys to get open. Now you're stressing the second and third levels. When you put, Kiko Mawinoa out one-on-one against a running back, dude, they're going to run that shock fade and hit it because he's respectfully not good in coverage. And that's why teams isolate him and continue to do so. They've dropped, opposing teams have dropped a couple. He had like one pass breakup, but this week Duke hit that play. You know what I mean? And that's not new or different scheme, but without the ability of the defensive line or without the impact of the defensive line getting there in time, that then makes people vulnerable in the back end, which is something else we need to look at. And just, Tyler Barron, I know he's had a lot of pressures, but they haven't turned into sacks, a la my guy Aiden Hutchinson for the Lions, who was leading the league in pressures early, but only had like a couple sacks. But those things matter. That pressure. Him, Reuben Baines, Simeon Barrow, who I don't remember his name getting called on Saturday for the first time this year. Simeon Barrow had a very pedestrian type game. But again, you remove them and it shows the glaring issues in other places on that defense, and those are the things we need to, make go better.
Comments and questions always welcome, folks, here at the Voice of College Football. And yes, going to let you know about the book, Disputed National Champions of the 1990s. Not just a history lesson, folks. We project all this forward each and every season of the 1990s into the BCS era, the 14 playoff, the 12-team playoff, the proposed 14-team playoff. So there's a lot of interesting scenarios outlined that were actual scenarios, actual storylines, results, who got screwed, who got left out, all those things concerning the actual season. But again, not wanting this to be a history book, only projecting all those seasons forward to show you what it would look like in a different era. So we've left the link there in the chat. Give it a look. So these Cam Ward mistakes, when a guy's throwing the ball 45 times, they're going to miss throws. You hear this out of a lot of fans. Oh, he missed a throw. He missed 3 throws. Well, of course he did. He's throwing the ball 45 times. Everybody in the country is missing throws. So there has to be some level of tolerance. I guess my 2-part question would be, number one, how do you coach those mistakes? It's one thing, bad throw. Another deal is bad decision. He made a bad decision. If they're playing if they're just playing in practice and there's no defense out there and they're just whipping the ball around, he's throwing from the right sideline, standing still and whipping it across the fine. The Miami guy catches the ball because you're not playing anyone. That's not a bad throw. It's a bad decision, to be technical about it.
Right.
So where do you coach that out of him, but still allow him to be who he is? Because there is a fine line between, you don't want athletes to be too calculated or too hesitant. You want them to flow and take calculated risks as well.
Honestly, at this point, I think that you just have to, you got to take it all. It's just, you already, this is the thing. We went to the warehouse store and bought it as is, or, the luxury car auction. Hey man, cool. Oh, there's a Ferrari there. Let me go get that. Well, let me get that. We're not going to talk about the windshield wipers. We're not going to talk about that radiator issue. We're not going to talk about that filter issue. You got all of that. And that is how it is. And, you just need him to continue to do the good things that he does and accept the other things, unfortunately. And I hate, I leave the stats up. So for this very reason, 1, 2, 3. So he went 3 for 11. Yeah, 3 for 11 to close the first half, and then he missed or went 1 and 2. So 4 for 13 from 4 minutes left in the first quarter until 9 minutes left in the third. He went 4 for 13. And if you look at it, it was 7, 9 and 17 is 26, 40. So 4 completions for 46 yards on 13 throws for a quarter and a half almost, right? That's the dry spell thing that I'm talking about. That's a little challenging. But in terms of the decision making, look, he's going to extend plays. His first touchdown was a play that was extended in previous games, perfectly placed in the back of the end zone, usually to Jacoby George. This week left it a touch short, got tipped, but and then Restrepo's there for it. Right. So you take that with the other, because the across the body terrible interception comes from the same place as the scramble highlight touchdown. To me, it just has to be, don't make I don't want to call it ridiculous, but stop the stupid shit. The across the body late over the middle, just flung into Nowheresville, throw it out of bounds, Cam. You're standing on the sideline. You've run around. You see the guys that you've waited. They've been covering for 7 seconds already. If by then nothing's open, throw it away. Finally, right? Because much as you like, every play is not going to be a home run ball. Every play is not going to be the big play. And sometimes, discretion being the better part of valor. Look, we're going to pack it up. We're going to go, whether it's 3rd down, 4th down, whatever. We're going to keep the ball and go run the next play, right? And you have the ability to make anything or make something special happen on each and every snap. So why would you waste that magic on some bullshit like a lobbed throw into the middle of a mass of people, half of whom are wearing the opposite color of jersey than your team, versus throwing it into the stands, getting a fan a souvenir, going back to the line, and having another opportunity to make magic happen, right? So what I'm doing is not even saying don't do you. What I'm saying is if you just say, hey, this one ain't going to work, it gives you another opportunity to do the magic that you do, that voodoo that you do so well. You know what I mean? So I want to see more of Cam, but that also goes with every once in a blue moon accepting, hey, out of bounds. Hey, even if you were open during that play, my bad, didn't see you. It's the same incompletion as it would have been on the interception. It just takes the turnover off, leaves you with the ball, and gives you, Cam, another opportunity to show your greatness. That's what I would like to see. But hey, I don't know. Maybe I just want it all.
So I don't know how many times maybe he's made a mistake that's similar to that, but it landed on the grass somewhere, or it went out of bounds, or whatever, meaning he made a similar mistake, but he got away with it because there wasn't a defender there, or he dropped it or just tipped it or whatever. Okay. My point being that take those kind of plays, however many there are, that he didn't get burned on, that he could have. And then also this, and it's fun to watch, and when it works, it's great, where he plays pinball in the pocket, where he's like bouncing off guys and doing pirouettes, and he gets out of that. I don't necessarily know that they're going to see a team this season in the regular season or the ACC championship game, but we could name the 4 or 5 teams who have defensive players who are just a little meaner, a little tougher, a little bigger, a little stronger in that pocket to get a strip sack or something like that while he's doing that. Or in the secondary are running a 4-3 instead of a 4-4-5, and they're a step quicker to the ball, and they're just flat out better athletes, and will make that pay, will burn him more often. There's a higher likelihood that he gets burned. Or maybe elite athletes kind of just instinctively know that we're playing a better team and I can't quite get away with that.
Yeah. I mean, I think all that comes together. We already saw a strip sack against Virginia Tech where he was trying to climb the pocket and everything. We've seen so there have been a couple crossbody ones that have missed. But Jacoby George has had a couple catches on those. Isaiah Horton, Xavier Restrepo has multiple catches running one way, jumping back. Okay, cool. But yeah, for the most part, it's been whatever it needs to be. And, hopefully Cam is able to just the catastrophic bad, just remove that part. But again, the incredible good and catastrophic bad are very closely linked, and they come from the same place. It's, like they say, it's a thin line between love and hate, right? Those strong emotions come from the same place. And it's hard to say, oh, well, I want all of this and none of that, because they're born of the same, foundation kind of a thing.
Falconer TRX, will the late bye week help Miami in the playoff?
I think it can help this team just by getting healthier and being able to, do some more advanced scouting from the staff and the players, and just, really shoring up the fundamentals of who we are and what we do well, and also looking at seeing, okay, like what the landscape looks like. And that's contextual, however, because the main thing is, And it rang hollow when Miami was losing, but it really is the mentality. And I believe Mario Cristobal, because he's continued to say it ever since he got here, the focus has to be going 1-0 every week, period. And that late bye week is great in context if and when Miami goes 1-0 this week and then moves forward. But yeah, in terms of getting everybody, I won't say back to 100% because, this late in the football season, there's nobody who's 100% unless you're not playing. But getting the players who play the snaps in as good a physical shape as possible. And again, gives Damari Brown another week towards working back from his injury that is, taking him basically the entire season. Other than, because he got hurt in the opener and has not played since. So, from those standpoints, I do think it will be a help. And yeah, just locking down our processes, our team, and who we are, what we do, and being able to continue to come off of the bye with the same kind of success that we've seen to this point against Wake Forest on Senior Day, and then subsequently Syracuse in the regular season finale.
We've got Paolo chiming in with this one. My other complaint was the end of the game. The starters were still in the game, and Ward took that hit and fumble instead of having the backups in.
Hey, just run the ball. I wanted a 60 burger. I know that, we were maybe looking for a little bit of style points after Florida State, to their credit, did enough to muddy the game up and, not have it be a 40, like a mid 40s, 50 burger kind of situation. So I wanted that. I would have liked it if maybe anybody in the world would have recognized that there was a blitzer coming from the offense's left. Anybody. Could have been offensive lineman, could have been running back, could have been the quarterback. Like, somebody just realized, hey, we have a free runner right here. That's the thing for me. But also, I get your point, Paulo, where we're up by a lot and you leave the starters in. And like we talked about with Jadis Richard, you're one play away from not having Cam Ward. And that was a free runner and everything. So, I mean, and that was, yes, another fumble, but like that blindside hit is going to cause a fumble from quarterbacks more often than not. But yeah, I halfway agree with you. I think that the choice to leave the starters in and try to go score, I agree with that. I disagree. I did not like the play call or the result of what actually happened in that scenario. So upon that, we agree. But the foundation of doing it, we disagree. But yeah, so I halfway agree with you on that point.
Right, folks, it's every Wednesday night with Cam and I, 7 p.m. Eastern time. So get here, and we will remind everyone as we continue to gain viewers, go back and watch what you missed. You obviously missed whatever at point 35 minutes at this point. So check out what you missed. Looking at the college football playoff rankings here. So it's a little bit different, folks. If you're not aware, than it's been in the past, not just the selection of 12 teams, but in the past, the rankings were just simply the rankings and the rules applied for everyone. And then the top four went into the playoffs as the 1, 2, 3, and 4 seeds. Well, now everyone's ranked, but if you are the 12th ranked team in the country, but you are a champion of a conference, well, you're going to be elevated as a power conference champion into the top 4. And so there's a little juxtapositions here to be explained. So, for example, Miami's the number 4 ranked team in the country. They would be the number 3 seed because 2 Big Ten teams are ranked ahead of them, and one will not win their conference championship. Therefore, they will be ranked below. So as we stand right now, these are the seedings, not the rankings. These are the seedings.
No. These are the rankings.
Oh, these are the rankings. I'm sorry.
No, actually, This is not even the rankings. This is maybe ESPN's predictor.
I couldn't get through their stupid All-State ad, and it's driving me nuts.
There has to be something up to, because that's not the
rankings, and I don't want this. That's what I want. Okay, here we go.
There we go. Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Because I was going to say, because Georgia was above us, so yeah.
So here are the rankings, but then the rankings relate to seedings. based on conference championships. But as it stands right now, Miami, the number 4 ranked team in the country, would be the number 3 seed in the college football playoffs if the season ended today.
Yeah, and I think that is. It's funny. I literally tweeted it right before it was announced. I said, after Texas at 5, I tweeted Miami is assured a top 4 ranking and top 3 seed at present. And literally, as I hit Control Enter to send that, it came up. Boom, Miami. At 3, 3 seed 4 rank. So yeah, that's I think fair. I think it's reasonable. Like clearly, in this era of college football where you have the Big Ten and SEC just dominating from a financial standpoint, they're going to have a disproportionate amount of teams in the rankings and seedings. So, Oregon ranked and seeded number 1. O State is number 2, but again, it would be only the conference champion in the top 4, so they were seeded number 5. Then ranked 3rd Georgia, seeded number 2. Miami, number 4, seeded 3. And then it was BYU, ranked 9th, but as the 4th conference champion with in the highest rank, they would be seeded number 4, so they would get a bye into the quarterfinals if this held true. And again, it's 4 different conference champions. So you see Big Ten, SEC, ACC, and Big 12 projected as of where things are today, right now. Can and will this change? I mean, it will definitely, because you have teams who play each other, a la Indiana and O State. Indiana, who I think is woefully Indiana and BYU, I think, are woefully underranked. And they were saying, oh, there's like a strength of schedule and strength of resume and blah, blah. But then there's the eye test and this, that, and the third. Mentioning the eye test and saying, hey, we just like seeing, big dudes close to the ball, basically, dominant offensive and defensive linemen. I was just like, who's made a major priority of strengthening the lines of scrimmage? Mario Cristobal. So when you look and see, oh, we have Francis Mauigoa at right tackle, and then when we put Markel Bell, 6'9", 335 or 340 or whatever at left tackle, you're looking at dudes who are dudes. So yeah, but in terms of Miami, the real issue at hand is go win. That's it. Period.pointblank.com is the story. Regardless of anything else that happens, if Miami wins, Miami will be ranked in this area and seeded in the top 4 as ACC champions. It is that simple. Now, it is always hard to go win, which I keep saying to people, and every time that somebody loses a game and it's tough, Penn State was 4-17, James Franklin against Ohio State and Michigan. Like, hey, and had a 10-0 lead in that game. You know what I mean? It's hard to go win. So I'm not saying that it is an easy task, but it is simple logic for Miami moving forward, and even simpler than last week, because remember last week there was the potential that we had 3 undefeated teams in the ACC. That is no longer possible in conference because Louisville went to Clemson and beat Clemson for the first time ever and removed the Tigers from that conversation. So you have Miami and you have SMU as undefeated in conference. Boom. That's it. So remember all those 3-way, tiebreaker machinations, whoop, get rid of that unless there's a loss. And then things can get re-elevated and da-da-da. But as we sit here today, right now, Miami's in the catbird seat. Take care of business every day. Shout out to the Home Depot. Not a sponsor. Could be. But like, hey, man, look, as long as Miami does what Miami needs to do and handles their own business, they'll be in the playoff, probably with a bye, probably going to Atlanta for the quarterfinals, and I'm with that. But the mentality we need to take from here, and it's been there, and Mario mentioned it a couple weeks ago, but really, honestly, and truly, especially with the announcement of these rankings, every game is a playoff game. Every play is a national championship play from here on out. And it's been that way all season, but at 9-0, one of a handful of undefeated teams, every game is a playoff game. Every play is a national championship play. That's how we need to be looking at this. That's the import of every single snap from here on out. So I'm not going to get twisted over Miami's ranking. Look, you got teams ahead of them with losses. Do I necessarily agree with that? No. Am I going to really get pissed about it? No. Why? Because if Miami wins, it will take care of itself. But as of right now, Miami's in a great place, a good situation with 3 games left. Onward, upward, and forward we go. Every game is a playoff game. Playoff start now.
So do you have a thought process that as long as you're undefeated, that you should always be ranked ahead of teams that have one loss?
I don't want to say absolute yes, but nearly absolute yes. I mean, especially at this point of the season. I'm not going to say 2-0 versus 1-1 and, like Oregon went to O State and lost or something like that, or the inverse. I'm not going to say something like that, but like when we're 2.5 months into the season, yeah, and I get it. O State lost on the road by 1 to the number 1 team. Cool. Georgia, I get it. I get the counterfactual arguments against having Miami ranked, over teams with losses in front of them. I understand it. I just, at this point of the season, regardless of who you played, it is hard to be undefeated, and I think that is part of what makes this sport great. And yeah, I think it should be rewarded with higher rankings. And again, leaving room for altering those rankings each and every single week if teams lose.
Yeah, so you just argued both sides
Yeah.
based on the loss. But for Ohio State and Georgia, they've also won significant games. So they've won games that are more difficult than anything Miami's seen. Texas, Penn State. So I think that it's the combination of the two.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy where everybody talked down so badly about Miami's schedule and offered, even while still talking up the individual teams separately, that it's just going to look like that. You know what I mean? Virginia Tech, everybody's darling. They're a dark horse to make the college football playoff. They had a big lead at Miami. They lost. Oh, well, they're trash. So, okay, cool. Type thing, So I hear you, but they still lost games. And again, but this is a snapshot in time. I think that, scenarios and situations can and will change throughout, as things move forward. But, yeah, that's just kind of, especially this late in the year. That's my view.
So
but I understand the other side.
Yeah. Okay. I always differentiate having an argument with a logical argument with somebody, a disagreement, but debate and understanding, well, your side, I don't completely agree with it and I'm arguing against it, but I understand it, versus you're insane. That makes no sense. As I'm going to pick on Dirty Kane things, rankings there, those make no sense.
I was just looking at it. Why Miami 1, Indiana 2, Oregon 3 of the undefeated teams? And I mean, if we're talking about undefeated teams, why no BYU 4?
Yeah, that's not consistent,
right? Yeah, I did. Yeah, that just seems. I don't know. I don't. Other than like being a Miami fan, which I am, and an alum, so I'm with you. So I'm not casting aspersions, but what I will say is Oregon's best win is better than Miami's, like clearly. So I don't know.
We've got.
Sorry. By the way, wanted to shout out my boy Derek. Saw him at the tailgate. He said some really great things. Is probably watching either live or on replay. So again, yeah, man, always great to get out and see people, man. Really very complimentary of both me and you with his statements at the game. So shout out to Derek. Appreciate you and everything, man. So I just wanted to remember that as I was looking at my phone, just to remember your name, brother. So yeah, man, good to see you. I really appreciate the kind words, man. Thanks for watching.
Awesome. Derek, thank you for that. That's nice to hear. That keeps us going. Also, a reminder, since Cam said maybe listening, maybe watching, that just over the last couple of weeks, we have started to strip the audio from these shows. And so the audio from these shows is available on your favorite audio platform, whether that be Amazon, Spotify, Google Play, Apple, of course, all the major platforms. So you can listen to Cam and myself on the Miami show. And so we are attempting to build up the audio side of it as well. Falconer TRX, Miami won every game on the schedule. What else?
That's it. Just keep doing that. I don't see a world where an ACC team gets the number 1 seed in the college football playoff, just with the finances of TV money in the favor of the Big 10 and SEC. So if it comes to pass where Miami, continues to win and is in, that final release and has no losses on the record, even with that being the case, and potentially with a team or two with losses in front of them, I just don't see this committee putting an ACC team up top. So I guess that's kind of just the thing with how it is. Look, if you play the College Football 25 video game, you know that that's pretty much the state of affairs. I've built San Diego State, the Aztecs, into a massive powerhouse in the Pac-12 that has been reinstated and now includes San Diego State, so a legacy conference and things like that. I don't think I've ever, in the 20-something year run that I'm on in this dynasty, have been the number 1 team after, a 14-0 or 13-0 season and conference championship game. So I have a lot of experience with that, in that realm. So yeah, I just don't think that the SEC or the Big Ten would allow for their conference champion to not be ranked at least number 1. I could see potentially Miami being number 2, but number 1 overall, I would bet good money that is going to the champion of the Big Ten or the SEC each and every single year.
And this is how Miami could possibly jump to number 2. There's a myriad of ways, but I'll go with the most possible and some other scenarios to throw out here. So the way the Big Ten sets up right now and the SEC, there's a complete dichotomy there. The Big Ten has Oregon undefeated, Ohio State, Indiana, Penn State with 1 loss. There is nobody in the conference that has 2 losses. So the entire rest of the conference eliminated, gone. So you're only focused on 4 teams in the SEC or in the Big Ten that are in great position to move on. Most likely will, unless one of them implodes. The SEC, there are 8 teams that have 1 or 2 losses. Nobody's undefeated. 8 teams have 1 or 2 losses. Now, you may not give much respect or chance to a Missouri, but the fact is they're 6-2 and they play in the SEC. And if they can win their last 4 games, so 8 teams in the SEC. So there could be a 2-loss SEC champion.
Yeah, I mean, it would take something along those lines to open the door. But then it's just like, dog, like they have to lose twice. And potentially, hopefully Miami loses 0. And it takes that to make the difference, but hey, we'll see. But, again, in Miami's case, centering Miami, focusing on Miami, win the game in front of you, go 1-0 every week, stack, and we've stacked already 9 of those, continue to stack them. And then, whatever happens will happen.
And Miami fans, I know you don't want to hear this, but I think of these things from a national perspective. The way for the ACC to get 2 teams in would be for SMU to run the table, win, and Miami's got 1 loss at 12-1, and they both get in.
Meaning meet in the Big Ten, ACC championship game. Lord, I said every other conference, but SMU, Miami in Charlotte, SMU wins. Both teams end up at 12-1. SMU gets the automatic bid, and then Miami, having previously been ranked 2 or 3, still gets in. Yes, that is the best way probably at present for the ACC to get 2 teams in.
Similarly, in the Big 12, although not nearly as probable because BYU's all the way down at number 9, but BYU arrives at the Big 12 championship game undefeated. Iowa State, with one loss currently, beats them. They finish 12-1. BYU's 12-1. Do both of them get in?
I don't think it'll happen, but also it could be Colorado instead of Iowa State in that scenario.
Yeah, then you get a 2-loss champion. Yeah. Yep. All right, folks, appreciate you being here every Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Bring a friend or 2 or 50 with you. And, of course, check what you missed. Does Georgia Tech pose any issues? 11-point favorite to Miami in Atlanta. Haynes King out the last 2 games. Georgia Tech has lost. He's supposed to be back for this one.
Yeah. This is the final revenge game from last year. And everything.
This is the ultimate. Well, Florida State, I guess, is always the ultimate, but
Miami won that game and got, the referee screwed them out of that because Donald Chaney was down by far. So and this is a physical team. They're diverse on offense. And, I think that Haynes King obviously is way better than Zach Pyron, who has played the last couple of games. So it's been 3 weeks since Haynes King played. He missed 2 games, and they're coming off of a bye week, which, gives them extra time to dial up special offensive stuff that they haven't shown before. They got a nice linebacker in number 44, Efford, who's like that kid from Cal who was annoying all day at linebacker, number 0, Uluwave, and everything. So, he's limited physically, but he is instinctual as hell and makes lots of plays. They have a couple decent running backs. They got a couple nice receivers, including Malik Rutherford, who's from South Florida, another couple of guys who are from here and everything. And they've played generally disciplined football, not great, but this is, a team that could present issues. Again, I think that Miami is the better team. I think that Miami is going to win and cover. I saw it opened at 15 or 13.5, depending on the book, because I looked at all of them. But, basically about a 2-touchdown kind of victory or more, I think, for Miami. But again, this comes down to Miami doing what Miami needs to do, stopping the run, finding ways to not get crossed up and just exposed on in passing defense where, it can't be every game where the offense dials up a rule breaker and they just have guys butt naked wide open doing cartwheels and backflips into the end zone. It can't be that. But this is a team that's definitely going to come out strong and motivated. They're coming off of a bye week. It is homecoming for Georgia Tech, and it is a special jersey game for them. So you take on all the stuff that you want to add on top, right, of last year's shenanigans, homecoming, special jersey. It's going to be their biggest recruit game of the year. Or second next to Georgia, right? So a huge recruiting game for them. All these things, that's what it's going to be. But Miami's been up to the test so far this year, and I believe that they will be up to the test this week. But I think a decent victory should be in line as long as Miami does what Miami needs to do, and the teams play towards their averages, even if they're in the, as long as you don't have Georgia Tech with a 99th percentile performance of what they're able to do, and Miami with a 10th percentile performance of what they're able to do, i.e. very, very, very low on the scale of what their output can be across the, entire game. I don't think Miami's going to lose. And again, I just think that objectively, I think they're the better team. They should be able to go in there. And as long as they don't shoot themselves in the foot too much, penalties, turnovers, missed assignments, missed tackles, dropped balls, all things that we've seen in various measures throughout this year, as long as you don't just continue to pile those things on and inhibit yourself from doing what you do very well, which is the number 1 offense in the country. Miami's almost at 60% third down conversions. They're like 5.5% higher or 4.5% higher than the next team. Actually, let me go get the actual numbers. CFB stats, please load for me. National third down conversions. Miami, 67 of 114, which is 58.77, so 58.8%. The next highest team is Oregon at 52.29 third down. Like, bro, I was right, 5.5% higher than the next highest team in third down conversions. So, I mean, I know that it was fun. You know, we talked about that stat of Miami not having 3 and outs, going into last week's game. Miami had 3 and outs in the first half. Well, that's as many as they had the entire season leading into last week's game. So as long as you do what you do and you don't do the other stuff that you don't do in that kind of a measure, yeah, I am confident that Miami has a better team, that they should be able to go into Atlanta and win that game. I mean, is there a possibility of shenanigans? Clearly, we saw it last year, so I'm not going to say it's impossible. But yeah, objectively, I think that Miami has the better team. I think that they have better players in key positions, and they should be able to go and win that game.
There's no question Miami's the better team, but at 11 points, Vegas is giving, that's not a crazy point spread.
It's not a crazy point spread. And if I'm looking on SP Plus, they have going in Miami with the 86 projected percent win probability before the game. That's like just short of 8 out of 9, probabilities if you're looking at all the things put together. So, I mean, that's
at some point in the season, common opponents start to become, I think, somewhat meaningful. And off the top of my head, Georgia Tech beat Duke by 10. Miami beat them by 22.
Mm-hmm.
Georgia Tech lost to Louisville by 12. Miami, of course, won by 7.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the two that come to. Georgia Tech lost to Virginia Tech by 15, minus Haynes King. Of course,
Mm-hmm.
Miami won that game by 4.
Mm-hmm. And also both teams beat Florida State, Georgia Tech by 3, and Miami by 22.
Yes. So I think that clearly shows that if you want to take those 4 games, and unlike what we're seeing in the chat right now, because I got to say, everybody, I'm seeing some transitive property arguments that are some of the most insane things I've ever seen in my life. So if you want to argue those, folks, please call Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. I'm live late after the games. Call me, bring me those transitive property. You can do anything with the transitive property. There were a couple years ago, Ohio State was in the top 5, and I showed how they had lost to Northern Arizona. So the
transitive property being like one team beat another team, and then the other team beat the other team. So then, like, A is greater than F because you can string those together. In case you're wondering what that is.
Yes, what I'm bringing to the forefront in this conversation with Cam about Georgia Tech Miami is resume, complete. You take one game and no.
Yeah,
resume.
Yeah, no, resume across the board. And, Miami's built a great resume. Cam Ward, as I'm looking in the chat, is continuing to build his Heisman Trophy resume, potentially. I don't see there's any way that he's not a finalist at a minimum. He's just playing outstanding football. And, as long as we have him on the team, feel confident. He's, second in the country in passing, 31.46. He's leading the country in touchdowns, yards per game. I believe he is 3rd, undefeated team playing in Miami, which elevates everything. We've seen guys put up crazy numbers at Arkansas State or Western Kentucky or Texas Tech. And Cam Ward's doing it on prime time national television every week for the Miami Hurricanes. It hits a little bit different. So yeah, man, he's honestly elevated this team. I think that, I've seen people referencing other journalists and media people saying, oh yeah, Miami would be a 5-win team without Cam Ward. I don't believe that. Clearly Miami would be playing differently if it were Emory Williams or whomever at quarterback. But I don't think it's immediately you remove Cam Ward and then it's replaced with 0, which is what I'm seeing people's logic being, which is incredibly flawed. But yeah, man, it's going to be, it's a great time to be a Miami Hurricane. It's always great to be a Miami Hurricane. And I'm just super excited because, you know, this is the kind of season that we've seldom had, even if, and look, I tried to enjoy the 2017 season when we did go 10-0 and everything. And personally sat in the front row of the Notre Dame game and dapped up Ed Reed while Trajan Bandy was taking that interception up the sideline. And he left the sideline interview he was doing with Maria Taylor to come literally dap up everybody in our front row that I was sitting with my boy Matt Washington. It was awesome. It was incredible. But that was still like, it didn't necessarily feel like this. And I'm really excited. This, honestly, it takes me back to when I was an undergrad, and, you know, we lost the second game of my freshman year at Washington and didn't lose again until my senior year. And yeah, it's great to see. I love it. Getting Cam Ward was billed to be transformational. It has proven to be transformational for this team. And I, for one, will be tuned in at noon on Saturday to the game in Atlanta and every week thereafter. So yeah, I'm really, really excited. You guys should be too. And yeah, you know, I know that, you know, in the aftermath, we do Monday morning quarterback, and we do kind of poke holes in things and stress test things that need to get a little bit better, but also like, hey, let's give the flowers where they're due. Let's enjoy the highlights while we have them, because you and I and everybody watching and listening knows there have been plenty of times without these kind of highlights for the Miami Hurricanes. So I'm going to lean in and enjoy it while it's here.
I can't close it any better than that. Appreciate y'all being here at the Voice of College Football on a Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern time. We'll see you back here next week.